Hello everyone. Let us today discuss about electric field due to an infinitely long, straight, uniformly charged wire. So, what we are doing today is we are deriving the expression for the electric field. Electric field for what? Due to an infinitely long, straight, uniformly charged wire. It is a straight long wire. Very long wire is called as infinitely long wire. So it is a straight wire, very long wire, and it is uniformly charged. That means throughout the wire, the charge distribution is uniform. Everywhere on the wire, throughout the wire, uniformly it is charged. Charge on the wire is uniform throughout the wire. So, we are going to derive the expression for the electric field due to this wire at a point P. At a point P. I'll show you where the point is. You can see in this picture. In the center, we kept the wire. In the center, we have kept the wire. And we have taken a point P. We have taken a point P which is at a distance R from the center of the wire. We have taken a point P which is at a distance R from the center of this wire. That means we have to derive the expression at the point P which is at a distance of R. Now, before going to the derivation, we should know two definitions which I have already explained in my previous videos. Once again, I will tell here. One definition which you should know is Gaussian surface. The Gaussian surface is nothing but the surface we choose for the application of Gauss law. The surface we choose for the application of Gauss law is called the Gaussian surface. Gaussian surface, physically it may not exist, but we have to imagine it. An imagination. Now, if you see this picture, there is only wire. With the radius r, we are drawing an imaginary cylinder here. So the point P is at a distance r. Therefore, with that distance r, we have taken the radius of the cylinder and we have drawn a cylinder with the dotted lines. So this cylinder will become the Gaussian surface here. And the length of the cylinder is L here. We can choose any length. We have taken a small length here as L. Now, one more definition which we have to learn here is linear charge density. Linear charge density. This is defined as lambda. This is defined as charge per unit length. This is given the letter lambda, Greek letter lambda. So it is defined as charge per unit length. So for 1 unit length, how much charge is given? That is given by this lambda. So we can see in this formula, lambda is equal to delta Q by delta L. Charge is measured in coulombs, length is measured in meters. Therefore, the SI units of linear charge density are coulomb per meter. Now, with these two definitions, we will proceed with the derivation. So, now let us consider this long wire where it has a charge density, that is linear charge density lambda. It has a linear charge density that is also uniform. So we will consider this long, thin, straight wire with uniform linear charge density lambda. So we can clearly see from the picture, the wire becomes the axis of symmetry. You all know symmetry. In mathematics, we have done in our earlier classes. So you can clearly see here the wire is the axis of symmetry for this cylinder. Now let's come to the calculation of the electric field. So let us consider first the Gaussian surface, that is the imaginary surface which is cylindrical in this particular application as shown in the figure. Now the field is everywhere radial. You all know the meaning of the radial, it goes in all directions. If the cylinder is a straight wire, the field goes towards the right side, left side, front side, back side, like all the sides it goes. Therefore, the field is everywhere radial. And the flux through the two ends of the cylindrical Gaussian surface is zero. Once again, I repeat, the flux through the two ends of the cylindrical Gaussian surface is zero. The meaning of that is, if you see the top surface of a cylinder and the bottom surface of the cylinder, if you see that, if you see that, the direction of the normal is upward for the top surface and downward for the bottom surface. We define the flux as dot product of E bar dot delta S bar, where E bar is the direction of the, where E bar is the electric field, and in this picture E bar direction you can see, and delta S bar is the area element. The normal to the area gives the direction of the area element. Therefore, flux is defined as the dot product of E bar dot delta S bar. That is E delta S cos theta. For the top surface, the normal is upward and the angle between normal to the top surface and the electric field is 90. Therefore, cos 90 is equal to 0. Therefore, top surface will not contribute for the flux. Similarly, if you take the bottom surface, the normal to the bottom surface is downwards and the angle, the bottom surface has a normal that is downwards, and the angle between the electric field and the normal to the bottom surface is once again 90. The angle between the normal to the bottom surface and the electric field is 90. Therefore, cos 90 is equal to 0. Therefore, E delta S cos 90, that is also equal to 0. Therefore, bottom surface and the top surface will not contribute for the flux. Now, what contributes for the flux is only that cylindrical part of the surface. Only the cylindrical part of the surface. The curved part of this cylindrical surface. At every point, as I have shown in the picture, electric field is normally outwards. That is normal to the area and the direction of the electric field both are in the same side. E bar is normal to the surface at every point, and normal if you draw to that particular area element, that is also in the same direction of the electric field. Every point around the cylinder, if you take electric field and the normal to the area, both are in the same direction. Hence, the angle between them is equal to 0, cos 0 is equal to 1. Therefore, we can say that the curved surface of the cylinder contributes for the flux. Now, we have drawn this cylinder with a radius r. R is nothing but the distance of the point P where we want to calculate the electric field. R is the distance of the point P where we want to calculate the electric field. Now, the surface area of the curved part of the cylinder is 2 pi RL, where L is the length of the cylinder. Once again, I repeat, this is from our mathematics. The surface area of the curved path, the surface area of the curved path, that is, the surface area of the curved path is 2 pi RL. All curved part will give the area 2 pi RL. Then We have to go for the calculation now. Flux through the Gaussian surface. Flux through the Gaussian surface is equal to flux through the curved cylindrical part of the surface. As already we have seen, top and bottom parts of the cylinder will not contribute for the flux. Therefore, flux through the Gaussian surface is equal to flux through the curved cylindrical part of the surface. That is equal to area into electric field. That is E delta S cos theta. Here theta is equal to 0, cos 0 is equal to 1. Therefore, E into area. Area is 2 pi RL. Therefore, flux is equal to E into 2 pi RL. That is equation number 1. This is by the definition of the flux. Now, coming to the Gauss law. According to the Gauss law, flux is equal to total charge enclosed by the cylinder divided by epsilon naught. Let us assume the total charge enclosed by the cylinder is Q. Therefore, flux is equal to Q by epsilon naught. As we have seen the definition of lambda, that is charge per 1 unit length is lambda. Charge per 1 unit length is lambda. Therefore, charge for L unit length, charge for L unit length is lambda into L. Once again, I repeat, charge for 1 unit is lambda, that is 1 unit length is lambda. Therefore, charge for a length of L is lambda into L. Therefore, total charge Q is equal to lambda into L. Therefore, as per the Gauss law, flux is equal to Q by epsilon naught. Q is equal to lambda L. Therefore, flux is equal to lambda L by epsilon naught. This is equation number 2. So, as per the Gauss law, the flux is equal to lambda L by epsilon naught. So, now if you look at the equations 1 and 2, both represent flux. Therefore, we can equate both of them. E into 2 pi RL is equal to lambda L by epsilon naught. Both the sides L and L cancel. After equating them, both the sides L is cancelled. Take 2 pi r to the right side. Therefore, E is equal to lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r. This is the magnitude of the electric field at the point P, which is at a distance r from the long straight wire. Now, we have to represent it in the vectorial form. In the vectorial form, E bar is equal to lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r into n cap. E bar is equal to lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r into n cap. Once again, E bar is equal to lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r into n cap. What is n cap? N cap is a unit vector in the direction of the electric field, that is in the direction of the normal, because normal and electric field both are in the same direction. So we are taking it a normal which is radially outwards, that is a unit vector in the plane normal to the wire passing through the point. So n bar is a radial unit vector in the plane normal, that is perpendicular to the wire passing through the point. The point can be any point, whatever may be the point. Now, E bar is pointed outwards if lambda is positive. This already I have explained in my earlier videos. For a positive charge, the direction of the E bar is always outwards. For a negative charge, the direction of E bar is always inwards. Therefore, E bar is pointed outwards if lambda is positive, and E bar is pointed inwards if lambda is negative. Thank you for watching this video. Here we have clearly seen the electric field due to a long, straight, uniformly charged wire. We will meet again in the next video with the next derivation. Until then, bye. Thank you once again for watching this video.